Who likes big XP drops?
Hooray! Woohoo!
Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to AFK all 3 different Rex Matriarchs. Now, I wouldn't do this for money, but if you want to get the drop logs done or something like that, you can AFK these things very easily, except for the blue one. The blue one is a little tough and you need really high-end gear. In all 3 different gear setups, there are a few things that remain the same. The first is the Necklace of Salamancy. This is the best in slot necklace for all 3 of them, no matter what. But if you don't have this, something like an EOF or a Amulet of Souls can be just as good. And for the red Rex, you can use a Bone Crusher and Demon Horn necklace and have Infinite Prayer. I also used salves just because for the green Rex, you definitely need them to clear the poison, and you need overloads. Also, there is some form of penance on all 3 versions, whether it's the powder or the aura. A lot of these don't require an aura. However, the blue one requires you to use the vampirism aura, so I would use the powder penance for that. You can also see the relics that I use on screen here, and I also have a Slayer task and have the helmet on the Anchronia stand. So we're going to start off with Pthen Kraken here. The gear setup that I use is on screen now. You can see I used Elite Sirenic with Blightbounds. You could probably get away with something as low as Pernix with good perks, as well as Ascension Crossbows. Now, I don't know where the line is that you can and can't do this. If you're using lower tier armor, maybe you would have to use higher tier weapons and vice versa. But the best weapon overall for this is a Hex Hunter bow, and I think you could probably get away with Pernix if you have a Hex Hunter bow. But if you're using something like Blightbounds, the higher tier armor is going to help a lot. I also tried to make this work without any special perks, but I couldn't get it to work at all. It was just not consistent without this Bulwark 4 perk you can see with the red square around it. This perk extends the duration of Debilitate, and it makes it so it hits the big range hit after you take the beam damage. And reducing that range hit seems to be the difference, because that hit can hit like 3500s and completely ruin everything. So you definitely need that Bulwark 4 perk. But every other perk is pretty much just standard DPSing perks for your armor. And then same thing with your weapon, except you just have Roaming 4 on the offhand for Greater Ricochet. And you're going to need Greater Ricochet for this. I ran Penance Powder to sustain Prayer, as well as the Vamp Aura to get a little bit extra life points. And then I also used a Blood Reaver Familiar to spam poison everywhere. And that's why we have Quorum Sticks, and then Lantodime Sticks just save overload sips. You're also going to need the Insulated Boots for this. It lowers the lightning damage by quite a bit, so you're definitely going to need that. And I would highly suggest using a Ring of Death here, because there is a high chance that you die if you look away or something like that. This isn't the most safe AFK. It's definitely something that I would probably do, that I have easy access to it. Not completely 5 minutes AFK with 0 inputs. It's not that level of AFK. So I want to give a big shout out to Frank. The action bar I use is pretty similar to the one that he showed, and that's because that one works the best. So once you start the instant, or before you start the instance, actually make sure you have all of your buffs on, your book active, overload, all that stuff, and then start the instance and move quick, because you want to get into position before the boss spawns. Now, if you don't make it, it's pretty tough to get there, from what I've noticed, especially without Bladed Dive, and I don't use that because it screws up my bars. But you can see I try to get to the square here, and I was late, and this actually screws up the entire kill. So this first kill gets completely ruined, so we're just gonna skip past that, so I can show you what happens once we start AFKing. So now that it spawns, you want to let it auto-retaliate. If you don't do this, it'll screw up the timing. But you can see the order of the abilities that's being used here will cast Escape at the perfect time, right when the beam is about to spawn, but after the mage hit hits you. So you escape, it places the beam, you get hit a couple times by the beam, and then the next magic hit pulls you back in outside of the beam. So you can see here, it escapes, and then he shoots another magic ball, and then it walks back in. And this is where the Onyx Bolts come in handy, because you can heal a bunch with the Debilitate active right here. And this range hit here gets blocked or under the effect of debilitate still, so you can really regain a lot of life points. Without the bulwark perk, that doesn't happen, and that range hit can really hit hard. And because how you see the end of the kill is there, where the magic hit hits me as it's dying, and I'm not healing anymore, and then I just take an extra magic hit, and then it starts the next kill with a magic hit immediately, it can really take a lot of soul split and healing from Onyx bolts to sustain doing this. Which is why I don't think this is the safest method. No matter what your gear is, even with the Hex Hunter bow, it seems pretty sketchy. Like if the Rex just hits really hard that time, you can get destroyed. And I didn't really want to make a special set of perks and gear for this because honestly, I don't think this is that great of a moneymaker or anything other than just trying to get the pet or drop log. So I timed some kills and they came out to a 51-second average. I don't know how, if I just got lucky or what, but saying every single kill takes about 51 seconds and the respawn is about 35 seconds, that gets you to 40 to maybe 42 kills per hour, which would get you about 10 mil an hour in Hearts of Seer, and then the other drops are pretty much worthless, so you can kind of just forget about those. So now we're moving on to Orikalka, the Red Rex, and we use Magic Tank Armor and Animate Dead to AFK this. And the way it works is using the Enhanced Devoted and Devoted 4 perks as well as Devoted on your action bar, or Devotion on your action bar, I mean, to try to block the geyser damage whenever it hits you. And this will work pretty much all of the time. And then the Animate Dead plus Crypt Bloom and other Magic Tank Armor will lower the damage enough where you're gaining HP with the Vampirism aura. That was a lot of words. So as for a weapon, you could get away with a Knock Staff, you could use an Inquisitor Staff, that's really good here, but I think the best thing to use is dual wields with Greater Concentrated Blast, and that's because whenever your attack speed is slowed down, you can sometimes get free auto attacks with dual wields that you won't get with a staff, so it's just a little bit of extra free damage, but an Inquisitor Staff works fine. You're also going to need to use at least Ganodermic Armor. Now, I have used an Aram's bottom with Enhanced Devoted and Devoted, and it worked fine. So I don't know, you'd probably just get away with that too. But I'd use at least Ganodermic, and then you still want the 2 pieces of Crypt Bloom. Obviously, the higher tier Magic Tank Armor, the better. And a Zuck Cape helps a lot for this. Same thing with the Salamancy and Godbook. I have Quorum Incense Sticks, Lantidime Incense Sticks, and then Magic No Paper for the hides. I was also using a Holy Scarab familiar, but you could use any DPS familiar you wanted. I just didn't want to have to deal with prayer when I was doing this. But if you use a Demon Horn, you could sustain prayer that way and use a DPS familiar, but it's probably worth using the Salamancy over that. So as you see in the kill in the background, you do a little bit of damage, take the magic hit and get slowed down, and then you can see how you get a few extra auto attacks, and then how the Enhanced Devoted or Devoted perk activates to save you from the geyser. And generally, Vampirism will be enough to sustain your HP. If anything happens, you could always just eat a piece of food in your inventory or hit the Excalibur. But you usually will sustain, so as long as you don't get too unlucky with the geyser spawns, you should be pretty good and never have to eat. So each kill comes out to about a minute, and with a 30-second respawn, that is about 35 to 36 kills per hour. And the money is pretty much negligible because the rings are terrible. So finally, we are on to Rathas. This is the safest and easiest AFK to set up. So you need any level 85 plus spear or dual wield stabbing weapons. Obviously, the Masterwork Spear of Annihilation is the best to extend your bleeds, and that works great with the Jaws of the Abyss. For the armor, you should use the Jaws of the Abyss, and then any, I would say, level 80 plus melee armor is good, but Masterwork is obviously the best. And then you use a Scrimshot Vampirism, and you pretty much just have infinite life points with this. It can't really touch you. You also are going to want the Venom Blood perk, or Elder Overload Salves, or even I think Era Incense Sticks would work fine. Anything to get rid of poison damage. And then also you are going to want the abyssal armor spikes. And the reason you want this is because it gives you a ton of bleeds that you can get a bunch of adrenaline off of, and then it works with the ring. And it's overall pretty good to get all of that extra damage, so you could potentially skip the heal. And that's like the main goal of this setup, is to skip the heal as much as possible. You also are going to be using a Blood Reaver Familiar, Quorum Incense Sticks, and then Lantodime Incense Sticks and Magic Notepaper to note the hides. So in the background, you will see a kill that gets a heal skip. Now this isn't going to happen every single time, but it should happen a decent amount of times. And if you could get a skip every time, you could maybe get up to 45 kills an hour, but again, that's pretty unrealistic, so you're probably going to see somewhere around like 37 to 40 kills an hour, most likely. And again, the money is pretty negligible, but this is definitely the one to AFK if you're going to AFK up your kill count for pets, because it's super safe and easy to do, and you can kind of just leave it there while you're doing something else, unlike the other two where there might be some small level of upkeep. Thanks for watching my AFKing Rex Matriarchs guide. If you didn't notice, about halfway through this, my allergies started destroying my life, so leave a like for that. Ha ha ha. Oh, look, a penguin. Aw.